Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the podcast. I'm your host, Ajoe21love. Here back at with a big episode today on the podcast. Sports Overview Topics, episode number 91. Bunch of topics to go over today, but try to get through them all and try to give my most thoughtful assessments on all these topics as it was a big week in the sports world. Um, this week, but thank you for joining me. If you're new to the podcast and like this video and you want to see more sports related topics, find those on the homepage. Find all the episodes you can there, but thank you. Let's dive into it quickly because there's a bunch to go over today. So, the trades didn't start off, then end off when it comes to big with Russell Wilson trade and then the Aaron Rodgers extension. Khalil Mack, the former Raider and former Bear, now has been traded to the Chargers for a second and a sixth round pick. Now, this move, it makes sense for both sides. The Bears, they were in a little window a couple years ago. They traded for Khalil Mack in 2018. He had 12 and a half sacks. Unfortunately, for Chicago fans, that season ended with a double doink and so on. They did make the playoffs again in 2020 as a 7th seed, but ultimately got knocked out by the Saints. But great move for both sides in being for starting with Chicago. They get rid of a big salary, a big contract, and Khalil Mack. Plus, Ryan Poles probably understands the circumstances of this team, as in they're in a bit of a rebuild. Justin Fields did just completed his rookie season. Didn't do a lot, but did do some, showed some bright spots. And I mean, you gotta see what you ultimately have in Fields and then build as you can around your rook or your young quarterback. So I like that aspect, and get more capital, get more picks, and get more cap as far as the Bears roster concerned. But yeah, then for the Chargers perspective, it's hard not to love this if you're a Chargers fan. Now, yes, Khalil Mack's production, as far as stats wise, has reduced a bit since joining the Bears. He had 4 straight double-digit sack seasons, and then the last 3 seasons 8.5 sacks, 9 sacks, and 6 sacks, which isn't bad, but for a player the caliber of Khalil Mack, expect a little bit more. Now, to be paired on opposite side of Joey Bosa, assuming he can stay healthy, because yes, an injury ended Khalil Mack's season early, but if he can be healthy, him and Bosa would be a frightening scene. And I mean, welcome to the AFC West if you're Russell Wilson. One day you get traded to the Denver Broncos. Next thing you know, Khalil Mack is traded to your division, and twice, at least twice, next season, he'll be chased by both Khalil Mack and Joey Bosa. And I mean, you know, the AFC West is going to be a fireworks show pretty much this season. And I mean, whoever wins that division is going to really earn it. Because I mean, just from last season, you had two playoff teams, the Chiefs and the Raiders. And you know, with all the drama the Raiders suffered last season, still making the playoffs, adding Josh McDaniels and Dave Ziegler, I think it'll be plus for Derek Carr and the Raiders team going forward. Chiefs are still the Chiefs. You know, Mahomes, Kelsey, Hill, you know, that young O-line, which, you know, is going to get better. You know, I mean, that defense still has questions. Besides Chris Jones, Honey Badger is a free agent. But that's going to be very interesting. And then you have the Chargers. I mean, Justin Herbert, now going into his third season, you know, had 5,000 yards passing last season, just missing out on the playoffs. I mean, signing Mike Williams to an extension, I mean, it's going to be a wild ride in the AFC West. I can tell you that much. Carson Wentz on the move again, as he will be the first Commanders quarterback. He will start quarterback as the Washington Commanders now trade 2 third-round picks, swapping of second-round picks, or actually one could be a second based on Wentz's performance, but nonetheless, at least 2 threes for Carson Wentz, you know, and the QB conundrum stays afloat in Indianapolis, as once again they'll have a new starting quarterback. You know, I'm sure, and the Colts fan base and many others probably assumed that Andrew Luck was going to start at least another decade. But, you know, his retirement right before the 2019 season really shook waves in that organization, and we can still feel that amidst this Carson Wentz trade to Washington. Now, as far as Indy side, yes, statistical wise was not bad. 27 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, 9-8, yes, but missed out on the playoffs. Had opportunities the last 2 weeks to wrap up a playoff berth, but lost a nail biter against the Raiders and pretty much looked lost the last week of season for the Jaguars. And thus, that was it. And they feel this it for Carson Wentz and the Colts. Now, at least so the Colts gave up, now looking back at it from that trade last season with the Eagles, they gave up a first and a second round for Carson Wentz due to Carson Wentz's performance. And that trade, now luckily they get 2 threes or 2 and a 3 back, but nonetheless, a pricey trade. As for Washington, Taylor Heineke, I liked the last season. However, I think he's a really good backup quarterback / a low-level starter in this league. And Carson Wentz is an upgrade, in my opinion, over Taylor Heineke. Now, many people thought, including myself, thought that Washington was going to win the division again last season. However, Fitz goes down week 1. That defense, it had its moments midway through the season, but to get back its way to 6-6, but ultimately fell apart. Chase Young goes down, tears his ACL, and really the offense just couldn't support as much. Now, I know Washington fans are going to look at this and be like, calling all elite quarterbacks, but this happens. Washington has better receivers than Indy had last year and currently. I think we can agree on that. Terry McLaurin, Carson Wentz will be. I'm glad for him because Carson Wentz will be the best quarterback Terry McLaurin has had thus far. He's had Case Keenum, Taylor Heineke, and Dwayne Haskins. All due respect to Case Keenum, but Carson Wentz is more of a threat, I would say, mobile-wise and downfield. And not just him. Logan Thomas, who had a very good year last year, before he got hurt. You know, Curtis Samuel, if you can stay healthy, and Adam Humphries. That is a very good receiving corps in Washington. Now, Antonio Gibson, also have to mention. Antonio Gibson and J.D. McKissick was a really good 1-2 punch last season. And Antonio Gibson, I don't think is as good as Jonathan Taylor. He won't have a type of season that Jonathan Taylor had, but Antonio Gibson is no slouch as well. He's one of the better running backs in the league. You know, they got real talent on that offense. It now not many O lines in the league are better, you could say, than Indy's O line. You know, with Eric Fisher, Quentin Nelson, Braden Smith, Ryan Kelly, etc. But it's an opportunity cost. You know, better receivers. Yes, I know Michael Pittman had over 1,000 yards. Zach Pascal, Paris Campbell hurt. But I mean, Jack Doyle, he's done solid, but he retired. Washington will have a better receiving corps for Wentz. And plus, this may be the best defense Carson Wentz has been around since the Super Bowl season in 2017, where unfortunately he got hurt. But, you know, Chase Young, Deron Payne, Jonathan Allen, Montez Sweat, Jameer Davis, you know, William Jackson, I mean, they got studs across the board. So that's why I put in the thumbnail. This is basically Carson Wentz's last chance with a good team. And as a starter. You know, you know, people will say, you know, perhaps some of it is true. You know, perhaps he's a bad teammate, perhaps he has an ego. You know, I think many players have an ego, but you know, 3 years left on his deal, you know, a manageable division. A manageable division. You know, Dallas, you don't know. You just don't know. Philly, I like, but, you know, have to see. Jalen Hurts, still inexperienced and still is going to have to grow next season, so we'll see. And Giants, you know, I like, but, you know, we'll have to see about Daniel Jones or if they'll bring someone in. We'll see. But the ball is certainly in Carson Wentz's court, and it's going to be a question of now they got the team around him to the point where he doesn't have to, because we saw it many times in Philly and last year with Indy. He tries to be Superman on many plays, and At some point, you just gotta let it be, you know. And, with that defense, with the weapons around them, I think that if Carson Wentz does not do too much, just knows when to take a play off and just just lets the team help out, then they can be a dangerous contender in the NFC. Now, yes, people were talking about that with Indy at the end of last season before obviously they imploded, but it's totally possible, Washington. It's totally possible. Now, do I think there's I do think they're a playoff contender with Wentz. Do I think they're a Super Bowl contender? Not yet. Now, yes, I just ran down the roster and how good it is. Yes, but, you know, with a few acquisitions, making, helping out that line, of course they had to release Landon Collins to make room for a contract, but if they can get some more rooms in the back end or more moves, then they can certainly be a Super Bowl contender if, now again, if Wentz just lets it be. But we'll see. We'll see. It is finally over. It is finally over. The lockout for the MLB Major League Baseball is over. The league went to a lockout late last year over disagreements over the collective bargaining agreement, but the other day they reached a settlement on a new agreement, and thus finally, 2 weeks have been skimmed off the baseball season, but nonetheless, it's back to running and ready for April 7th. April 7th. Now, baseball isn't as popular as it was a number of years ago, but it is still meaningful in a way. And you don't want to see one of the top pro sports leagues in the world to go in a lockout, because that just means dysfunction. That just screams that something's wrong. And you know, just glad that Commissioner Mom Rob Manfred and the Players Association were able to find new grounds, and thus we're getting baseball April 7th. Now, there's been many moving parts in free agency, but perhaps none bigger will be a testament than who was a pivotal piece in the Atlanta Braves winning the World Series this season. Freddie Freeman, his name has been a vocal point the last number of weeks. And with now the lockout coming to an end and free agency up and running again before the start of the season, it will be an interesting watch, an interesting eye out to see if Freddie Freeman stays in Atlanta in the ATL or goes elsewhere. Because money talks. According not to Juan Soto, turned out a big deal before the lockout. So we'll see. We'll see. But one eye to keep an eye on. But anyway, glad that baseball will happen. Will happen. Good scene. Amari Cooper. Traded from the Cowboys to the Browns for a 5th round pick and swapping of 6th round picks. This was a move that some people saw coming. You know, there was reports out there that Amari Cooper was set to be released or traded by the Cowboys. Now that has come to a settlement as Amari Cooper is now a Cleveland Brown. Now, kind of go figure. I would say kind of go figure. Because the Dallas Cowboys, you know, they love CeeDee Lamb. CeeDee Lamb has had 2 heck of seasons to start his NFL career. And obviously, he's still in his rookie deal. Michael Gallup, you know, coming off an ACL. It's a bit of a gamble, but they signed him to a big extension and cut ties with Cooper. Now, I don't know if this helps. It will help the Cowboys, maybe. You know, when you have a few alphas at receiver on your team, it's a bit of conflict of interest because, you know, you have one guy you want to give him the ball, you have another guy who you want to give the ball. It's just a crazy conflict, but at least for them, in their ways, they cut ties with one of them. As for the Browns, you know, Amari Cooper, you know, getting one of the best receivers in football for a 5th round pick, and he's only 28 years of age, or will be 28 years when he starts the season. But, you know, I like it. You know, Odell, yes, you can argue was more explosive than Amari Cooper. But Cooper's left is more soft spoken. He's a bigger athlete and arguably a better route runner than Odell. So, you know, a plus for Cleveland, you know, Cleveland underachieved. You know, people can say all they want that Cleveland was overvalued or overrated. the reality is, you look at, I mean, it's hilarious. It's a what have you done for me lately league. And 2020, they were one of the best teams in football. And you look at that roster, there's not many holes. And Amari Cooper, be a plus. Rashard Higgins, Donovan Peoples-Jones, another year under his belt. He had some flashes, real flashes, last season. So it's going to be interesting. Harrison Bryant, David Njoku, they franchise tag, Austin Hooper, etc. It's going to be exciting for Cleveland. Just a question of can they rebound like that roster and we feel it should. We'll see. Because, I mean, Baker Mayfield fighting for that second contract, you know, got hurt last year. We'll see. We'll see. But I like the move for Cleveland side. Not sure really for Dallas. Kirk Cousins, which I'm sure will get immense reaction. Kirk Cousins signed a short extension with the Minnesota Vikings. A 1-year, $35 million extension to put him through for 2023. You know, Kirk Cousins, for the longest time, the Vikings quarterback this room or starting quarterback was a question. For a long time, it was a question. Kirk Cousins has provided stability for that quarterback position. Hasn't been great. You know, anybody can be the judge. He's done well. And he has a narrative around him that's still gonna be there. You know, doesn't win big games. I mean, I think if Kirk Cousins was paid a lot less than what his contract stands, then people would not have as much of a problem with Kirk Cousins. But being that the way he's paid, I mean, it is what it is. I like the move for Minnesota because, yes, Kirk Cousins is a rock star quarterback. He still provides stability. And, you know, Kirk Cousins, Kevin O'Connell, it's going to be interesting. Kevin O'Connell, their new head coach. They have history together from Washington, so we'll see how O'Connell can help elevate Cousins and the Vikings offense. Zach Ertz. This was another no-brainer move as far as I think we can all see. Zach Ertz, who was traded from the Eagles to the Cardinals last season, had a hell of a year, 763 yards total for the tight end at only 31 years of age. Still going strong, and I know there's been the fiasco with Kyler Murray and the Cardinals, but Kyler Murray has to love this move, has to love it. Zach Ertz, you know, what can be very useful for a young QB is a security blanket, a good tight end, and Zach Ertz. You know, now everyone can agree that when DeAndre Hopkins went down, everyone's production really went down on the offense. But nonetheless, great move for Kyler and the Cardinals. A plus, in my opinion. Last but not least, Tom Brady. Yes, Tom Brady. Tom Brady has come out of a short retirement and thus he'll return for his 23rd season. And with the Bucks, unless something bizarre happens, but with the Bucks and looking to run it back, he'll be 45 years of age to start the 2022 season. So that's going to be a sight to see. Now, no surprise. I mean, looking back at this past season, Tom Brady had over 5,000 yards passing, almost 5,500. You know, was one of the top candidates for MVP. Almost came all the way back against the Rams, the eventual Super Bowl champions, down 27-3 to win it against the Rams. Ultimately fell short, and Cooper Kupp, you know, who had a remarkable season, and Matthew Stafford put a glimpse into it. So there was that, but you can tell by the way they finish. No surprise that Tom Brady's coming back. No surprise. Now, again, a domino effect. Now that perhaps Tom Brady is coming back, there are a few free agents for the Bucks that may change their minds. May very well change their minds to stay with it and try for it again. Jason Pierre-Paul, Ryan Jensen, Carlton Davis, just a few. We know Gronk is coming back if Brady's coming back. Gronk, Fournette, perhaps he takes a lower level deal. It's a thought. Very interesting to see, but yeah, I can't wait to see how it all unfolds, but should be interesting, to say the least. But nonetheless, that's the episode for you guys. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Covering a lot on the channel today, a lot of big moves. Giving my thoughts on all of them. But hope you guys enjoy it. I did as well. If you did like this video, of course, click that like in the corner, as well as please subscribe. Help out the channel, help out the video. But thank you all. Of course, be back next week with episode 92. But thank you all. Be safe. I'm Ajoe21love. Peace.